Hello guys, welcome to this video. Now this video will be like really important to me. All the videos I record are in some way or the other important to me. But in some videos, for instance, I choose to focus on some personal question, like some question that matters to me personally more than in general. But this video is a very important question. In this video, I'm going to talk about a very important question, important in general, not just to me. And it's, as you can see from the title, it's why do non-conventional channels, organizations, even like why do non-conventional channels of information matter? Now some of you, I mean, why did I say that this is relevant for everyone? I mean, some of you will are probably thinking about media, press freedom, media, which is a joke in today's world, because basically media narratives, everything is controlled by the politicians or the leaders who are in power. As we all know, that's true more or less. So in that sense, you can see why independent journalism, like really independent journalism, matters. But at the same time, as you also know, that a lot of people can start, freelancing, can start a YouTube channel without aligning themselves with any particular leader or political party. But such things are not sustainable. I mean, they either remain like unrecognized, like maybe one or two people watch, or like they have basically zero impact, or the moment they began to scale, they begin to scale, they begin to grow into something real. They are either silenced, or they are kind of bought by some party or other, some group or the other. So ultimately they become biased. And it's, I'm not trying to blame the leaders or whatever, because this is inevitable. This is the structure of the system that we have built. Call it whatever it is. I'm not just talking about governance system, I'm not just talking about democracy, because we cannot in my opinion, we cannot really single down the problem or narrow down the problem to a single word, because it's easy to criticize the system. It's also important. Constructive criticism, balanced criticism is really important. But at the same time, it's easy to criticize, but it's harder to come up with an alternative solution. I mean, of course, you can criticize the system. The system is worth criticizing. There are lots of things to criticize, and of course we should keep criticizing the system just to keep ourselves grounded. But at the same time, if I were to ask you, do you have any like really viable alternative, not on paper, but any really good alternative? Think about it. How many forms of governance can be there? Centralized, which means like most of the power is concentrated in very few hands, which means like some kind of dictator or monarch or something. Or decentralized, at least it's technically decentralized, or that's what democracy is, except democracy in practice is, in the current world, it's not really decentralized. It's more like centralized power with the disguise of being decentralized. I mean, what power do the common people have? Once a leader is elected, the leader is basically playing with press freedom. The leader is doing whatever he wants. For instance, you saw what the leaders all around the world are doing. I don't want to take any names, but for instance, the wars and everything. uh, if I am a leader, I can just wage a war against any country, and just the war can drag on for weeks, months. That can affect the people of their country, kill millions or thousands, even millions. That can, disrupt markets, disrupt the cost of living, or just ordinary life of everyone in many countries of the world, and I can have absolutely no consequences. The consequences, okay, maybe after 4 years I will not no longer be in power. After 5 years I will no longer be in power. So if this is the guardrail that democracy is introducing, do you think it's a valid guardrail? Because I mean, 4 years or 5 years or even 1 year for that matter is enough time for me to completely destroy a country or destroy the world if I really want to. I'm not saying not necessarily destroy as in nuclear war, but basically destroy the world structurally enough so that it will take decades to come to the previous position. Disrupt the world, basically. Disrupt it irreversibly. So then, in what way is this protecting the interest of ordinary people? I mean, if as a leader I can disrupt the world irreversibly, or my country irreversibly, then even if I am punished after 5 years, or after in the next term I am not re-elected, that's not justice. That's, forget justice. That's not even like a, that's stupid. That is indeed stupid. But at the same time, if you were to ask me that, do I have any alternative, like have I thought of any alternative form of governance, like not dictatorship, not democracy, but something else? I haven't. I don't have an answer. So if some of you do, I mean, let me know, or better let the authorities know, or let someone know who can do something about it. But But no, I don't. And I think the problem is deeper. The problem is structural. The problem is not just humans are bad or corrupted. I mean, yeah, of course they are. But like, if you were to sit in that position of power, maybe less, maybe more, but you would definitely become corrupt at some point. After some point, that's in. If you don't, then I mean, this is kind of like obvious, like, right? I mean, the way the structures are built, the way power works. And I have always been very interested in studying social dynamics from a physics, because I am a physics student and I research, my work is in physics, physics of complex systems, nonlinear dynamics, and like statistical physics. So although the work I'm doing is kind of boring compared to this, it's mostly about biological systems. But honestly, DNA, the DNA of in a cell, or a bacterial DNA, and all these things, these are very interesting questions. And the reason biophysicists study these questions is these are at least this you can at least do something, because you can do real experiments on the DNA of a bacteria, and you can take data, you can try to build a theoretical model, analytical framework, you can run simulations. When it comes to society, you can do none of that. You can speculate like I'm doing right now. That doesn't take you, for that you don't need to write a paper, you don't need to do research or anything. You can speculate. I'm speculating right now, but that's not real science. That's why this is not a topic for science, but it's definitely, I believe, it's a very important topic for discussion. That's what I'm doing right now. So yeah, I don't want to keep talking on. I keep this video, make this video unnecessarily long, because this video is anyway going to be long, like longer than my average, because I have decided to talk about lots of interesting, like important, not only interesting, but important stuff in this video. And this video is, I rarely, if you watch my videos, you know this, I rarely like ask my viewers to please subscribe if you're new to the channel, please watch the video till the very end. I do not do these kind of things, because YouTube is not my passion. And trust me, I have been doing YouTube for like 6 years, I think, give or take a few months, 6 years. I never believed, like, I never worked hard. I mean, for YouTube, it's just like when I feel like recording something randomly, I just, you see these videos, I just recording on my phone and I'll be uploading it. I'm not editing it. I'm not really putting lots of time and effort on YouTube. I don't. The YouTube Shorts, recently I've started giving a little bit more time to YouTube Shorts. Not very much, but when I go visit some good places, I take clips of the places, like the nature, like the trekking in the mountains or the sea or the sky, whatever, and I just edit the video clips and add a song in the background in YouTube Shorts. But yeah, that's just a short that doesn't take a lot of time. But yeah, so YouTube, I don't do YouTube seriously. And even after all that, I have 1K subscribers, more than 1K subscribers, and trust me, YouTube is not even my hobby. It's less than a pastime, less than a hobby, if I'm being very honest. Given everything else, I really don't do justice to my YouTube channel. So given all that, 1K subscribers to me after 6 months, I'm sorry, 6 years is really enough. I'm happy, because to me it's more important that at least some of you watch my videos and it gets you thinking. Not that you agree with me, not that you praise me or you say great video Arpan in the comments. Not that kind of shallow appreciation or anything. But I just hope that my videos gets some of you. I don't need a huge audience, because of course if I did like kind of memes or trendy stuff that people watch, but we all, even I sometimes watch like funny videos on YouTube, like pranks, and but those videos are just, when I'm feeling bored, or I have 5 minutes, I'm feeling bored, or I'm feeling sad, let me watch a funny video. But that's important. I'm not saying it's not important. But it doesn't change the way I think. It's not about any serious topic in the world, for about which more common people need to think. So it's, in that sense, it's like, yeah, it's just for entertainment. My videos are not for entertainment, of course. If you look at my channel, that much would be clear to you. That's why my audience is, I think, more niche, like more specific. Now, but yeah, so what I was saying was that, so even though I do not say this in my videos, like please watch the video to the very end and stuff like that, this video I really implore you, if possible, save it for later. Take your time. You don't have to subscribe, you don't have to like, but please try to watch the video till the very end and share with me if you have any feedback. Or if you don't want to write a comment on YouTube publicly, please at least think about this internally in your own head. I want you to think about this, please, whoever you are, because this is a very important topic in general, like I told you. So okay, I'm again kind of speaking unnecessarily. Let's get to the point. So what I was saying is that this is obvious. I mean, let's say you have one particle that's not interesting. One particle cannot interact with itself. Like, it's just one particle. You don't need governance for, if there was only one human on Earth, would there be any necessity for a constitution, for laws, for courts, for parliaments, for governments? No, there wouldn't be. Uh, if there are two humans, two agents, two particles? Well, maybe some basic rules that, okay, I would not harm you if you do not harm me. If you try to kill me, I have the right to defense. Maybe a few, like a one-page constitution, maybe, because within two people, I mean, there are very few possibilities. Things cannot get interest. Well, I mean, of course, if you think about that, you can say that, oh, my relationship with my girlfriend or boyfriend is very complicated. So, Arpan, don't say that within two people things cannot get interesting. I'm not saying that, but you know the reason. This is the interesting part. If there were only two people on Earth, if there were no third people, let's say only you and the second person, only you to exist on Earth. There is no third person, nothing, no institutions, like nothing. Then it would actually be like boring and very simple. The reason even the relationship between two people gets complicated in this world is that there are many external factors which are controlled by third, fourth, fifth, and 100 million other people that affects these two people. That's the reason. You see what I mean? Your relationship with someone is not just fully like 100% in control between you and that other person. That person is in contact with many other persons. You don't know all of them, and the same goes for you. And you see what I mean? There are lots of external perturbations. So the question is, since we have, I don't know the exact number, but since we have billions of people, such a huge population on Earth, of course, we need a governance, we need a constitution, and everything. It's not just one people or two people. Now the question is, just from a strategic physics point of view, I'm not because I'm not a politician, I have not formally studied social science or anything, but I think this is a very important perspective because it's unique. Many people talk about specific incidents like case study, that country, that leader did that under this section of the constitution, this is a crime. Those are very important, trust me. Those people are, it's very important to keep that check on power and everything. But they will never like no usual people like that will never try to treat the entire system as like from a physics point of view. That's even most physicists don't do this, trust me. I know my tribe, at least most physicists are too caught up in their conventional work, or it's a very interesting work, novel work. Novel in what sense? uh, I mean, in the world of academia, by novel it simply means that it's whether it's of enough quality that a peer-reviewed journal will accept it as original research. That's it. That's of interest to academia. That's of interest to future scientists who can work on that same topic and publish a few more papers and get some more citations and basically kind of get a stable career in academia. But from the point of view of the broader, like from a purely intellectual perspective, like the novelty is questionable. Honestly, what I'm speaking now is not acceptable as real physics, real science, but novel. Well, I mean, I think it sure is novel, in that sense. Not novel as in like publishable in the journal, but definitely novel. So what I'm saying is that just if you yourself think about it, you don't have to be an expert in physics or in politics, but if you yourself think about it, if you have a huge number of interacting particles, of course humans are interacting, maybe there are some local boundary conditions, like this is a country, that's a different country. Of course a few number of particles can move back and forth, immigration and everything, but again there are some bounds, otherwise we couldn't have even defined a country. So if you just imagine such a system and forget all the usual narratives on humans, countries, politics and everything, but just from a purely physics, or not even physics, common sense point of view, and let's say you have been tasked with the insurmountable task of you have been assigned the task of like writing down a governance system for this huge system consisting of millions of particles, interacting particles. What would you do? Well, of course, you will need kind of like some amount of centralization, because without any centralization, if it's completely decentralized, it's basically chaos. Like anybody can do anything, and such a system would not survive. Why? I'm not saying that I am a prophet, I know, or anything. I'm not making any claim, but from a physics point of view, if you have millions of particles which are interacting in any way they like, and there is basically no constraint, like no constraint that this particular interaction is not allowed, that particular interaction is allowed. If there are no such constraint, no such gradients, then there are many more ways the system can destroy itself than the ways the system can sustain itself. That's the simple reason the system will destroy itself. Logically. I mean, if there was no law in the country, if there was no law preventing you from murdering your next people, even if one people commits murder, then the other people will want revenge. That's human. Even today, in today's world, if somebody kills someone you love, you want revenge. But usually by revenge you don't go and kill the murderer, because there is a thing called court, there is a thing called justice, there is a thing called constitution, there is a thing called law. So just because somebody killed someone, you don't want to take revenge and end up in jail yourself. So that's why you contact the authorities, you make sure justice is served. But that's because there is a some kind of centralization, or at least standardized power system. Gradients basically. If there was no gradient, then then you would kill them, they would kill you, somebody else would kill, and this would continue. So this is only one way, but if you think about it, there are many ways the system could completely destroy itself, destabilize itself, if there was no governance at all. Then so maybe out of uh, technically it's infinite, like almost infinite for all practical purposes, but let's say out of 10 possibilities, there are 9 ways the system can destroy itself and only one way the system can sustain. So even if the system follows that last positive path for a bit, definitely it's going to fall back sooner or later on one of those 9 ways, which will inevitably lead to destruction. So first question, we have answered that no, we do need a governance, and governance means a gradient, like some, there should be some amount of hierarchy. Dictatorship is actually a form of governance. It's a very bad form of governance, because the dictator can do whatever they want, and that's why we know dictatorship didn't survive. The democracy came, and because, well, in some places of the world they do, even in some democracies they do survive in practice, even though not explicitly. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying, it's a form of governance, because at least it ensures some law and order. But then democracy is basically dictatorship with an added constraint that if the leader decides to do something very much unacceptable, the common people have the power to like remove the leader and elect a new leader. But this will go on, of course, because it's not a problem only with the leader, it's the problem with the power itself. Power itself creates a gradient, and that gradient will, of course, almost force anyone who's in a position of power to do, like, to get addicted to corruption, to abuse their power to ensure their, it's a old human trait, once you are in a powerful position, you don't want to lose the position, and you're ready to go any lengths. So that's the thing. So basically there are just two options, like basically there is just one parameter, that is centralization, and you can just reduce or increase, like adjust the parameters. So if you reduce centralization too much, you have something like a democracy, so where it's at least more decentralized than a dictatorship. But if you reduce centralization like to absolute zero or very very less, then it's like anarchy. And if you increase centralization too much, then it's again some autocratic or like kind of dictator kind of regime, rule, right? So that's the thing. And now the question is, all that is very well, and I mean, the world today is very turbulent, very dark. There are wars, there is injustice everywhere in every part of the world. Trust me, I've seen many of it, and thankfully I have not yet faced like consequences, like living in a war-stricken countries, not knowing whether me or my close ones will live or die the next moment. I have not yet gone through that phase, but I even I have faced injustice and stuff in my personal life, in my professional life, in academia, in physics and everything. Compared to the injustice in the world, these seem like a joke. Like it almost sounds like somebody's complaining that I get, like, some rich family kid is complaining like that I asked my parents to buy me this particular chocolate, but they brought me a chocolate of a different brand. This is so unfair, when there are people who don't have enough food to eat. It almost sounds that. That's why I don't want to kind of talk too much about myself, because like I said, my sufferings or injustice is nothing compared to. But I'm not trying to play the victim or anything here. I'm just trying to like analyze everything and answer the simple question which I've tried to answer in some of my previous videos as well. So what to do, like as an ordinary human, then you must be asking this, then what to do. So you explained, and I agree with you that it's a fundamental problem with the system, with power structures. Everything will be corrupted, there will be injustice, there will be unfairness, everything. And as ordinary people, we really have very little power. I mean, of course you have the power to elect, cast your cast your vote to whichever leader you like, but think about it, do you really have the power to make the world a better place? Be honest, this is not a motivational speech. Be honest, do you really have the power to make the world a better place? If you're an ordinary man, you do not. I mean, even if you are a leader, technically you do not, because even leaders are not as powerful or as independent, or as in control of everything as they appear to be, as they try to, as they pretend to be. Because leaders also operate under lots of constraints. This that constant sense of being under the spotlight, that fear of losing power, that insecurity of not winning the next election, then your other constraints of your country, of your. So yeah, of course the leader is also not in control, and the leader is also not really powerful, like in the sense he has more influence. His decisions can cause massive amount of harm. If you take a bad decision, only maybe 2 or 3 people are affected. If a world leader takes a bad decision, millions are affected. That's the power. But that doesn't mean that they are better people, or they are like more in control of their own lives, or control of whatever they're doing. Of course not, rather the opposite in many cases, because it's easier to distort or lose control when you reach that level of power. Kind of ironic, because they are supposed to rule the world, but anyway, ruling is destroying, supposedly. So what I'm saying is that then if you ask the question, what to do of all this, so then there is no solution. Well, of course there is no solution. The closest we can come to a solution is like keep going. Like if not maintain the same leader in a position of power for too long, maintain free press and everything. So I keep saying all this. Most people do, most analysts, most scholars do. But if you think about it, it's not really as easy as it sounds. And in some countries, given the constraints of the countries, given the history, given the constraints, given the what the majority believes, given the pressure, the cultural pressure, sometimes the religious pressure, it's actually impossible to realize and practice what I said, that maintain a free press or ensure that the same leader is not in power for very long. It's technically impossible in many countries, in many systems. So it's, of course, it's easier said than done. And the next thing I want to talk about is, so now this was kind of like, yeah, I know it's 20 minutes, but this was kind of like the trailer, like just to set the broader, put my next, whatever I'm going to say next in broader context. Just to put it in broader context, I wasted, like not wasted, but I spent the first 20 minutes of the video. But now I am not a politician, or I am not an expert on these kind of things. My my cup of tea, if I put it that way, my cup of tea is physics and academia and research science, this kind of thing. So I want to talk about the same issue but in academia, because here I think I'm a little bit more in a position to talk about this than talk about geopolitics. So yeah, now the question is, this is just, I just want to be very honest with you guys, that academia research is a much less pressing issue. I know many people will. I know I recently was having a conversation regarding this very thing with some of my colleagues, and I won't say they disagreed with me, but some of them didn't like the way I said it. That research is not really the most important thing. But yeah, I still stand by what I said, because research is the most important thing to us, to people, to students like me who are doing an internship and looking forward to do a PhD, to PhD students, to postdoctoral students, to professors, to researchers. Of course, to them, research is the most important thing. Why? Because it's a profession. Research is what they make money from. But if you think about the world, I'm sorry. At one point, I said almost the opposite thing when I was young and naive. I used to say that, like, I used to act like physics is everything. Physics is the only thing that matters. And I was like kind of caught up in that elegant theory of everything. You know, the usual like theory of everything, mathematical elegance. I'm gonna, these people are too stupid. They're worrying about politics. I am worrying about the unified field theory. That kind of thing. Like I was. It's very naive, but yeah, maybe it's natural for a 15 or 16-year-old who's very interested in physics. But now I have changed, and although I do work in physics and I'm really passionate about my work, I'm really interested in the research I'm doing, and I'm also actively involved in science communication, mentoring high school students, younger students in physics. I do take all of that seriously, but at the same time I really cannot try to pretend that this is more important than food, hunger, money, poverty, or anything. Just because I do not live in a country where there are missiles and bombings going on every second, where just because I have enough food to eat, I can take 3 or 4 meals a day. Just because of that, I cannot honestly, I cannot pretend that statistical physics or some abstract mathematical framework that I built to explain some simulation, I really cannot pretend that this is more important than those issues. Again, importance in the sense that important to humans living currently in the world. In the grand scheme of things, nothing is important. In the grand scheme of things, all of us will die. Wait a million years, even the earth, entire human civilization will be wiped off, will be completely washed out. So in the grand scheme of things, of course, none of this matters. In the grand scheme of things, physics is as less important or as unimportant as those things. So there is no much difference. In the asymptotic limit, the differences vanish. But I don't know, I'm not talking about that, because if you completely believe that, of course you can believe that, but if you choose to live by that, then technically you shouldn't be living even, or you should just be living without it, trying anything. Like nothing matters, so why should I even eat the next my next meal? Why should I take breakfast tomorrow morning? Because yeah, nothing matters. So maybe if I don't take breakfast, I'll die after a few days. So let me die, because why should I optimize for living if nothing matters? So that's the other extreme. I've talked about that in many videos. I don't want to go down that road right now. But yeah, within the present constraints, if we come by importance, I mean important to humans in the living in the present time, I really cannot pretend that research or physics or any or academia science whatever or any particular like this kind of intellectual pursuit is more important than than those things. So but yeah, since this is what I am involved in, this is my as I said, my cup of tea. That's what I'll be focusing on for the remaining part of the video. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah. So the question is the question that I want to mainly talk about from now on till the end of the video is why like I began the video with this, I think. Why are alternative platforms, alternative organizations, alternatives to the conventional path, the traditional path, why that is important? So this is true for every field, I believe. There may be exceptions, but I think it's true for every field. But I'm gonna illustrate this with a single example. Why? Because this example is something I have lived by. So I'm in a like this is what in fact I came to this conclusion from this. That's why it's a good example to talk about. And that's some of you know. In fact, the previous video in my channel was about this, the Journal of Young Physicists. It's a platform I created so that young people who write about physics, who love physics, but of course their writing is not of a quality that professional peer-reviewed academic journals would accept, people like that. So the entire idea was that it's a platform where people like young people who like to write about physics and are interested in physics, they have a place to publish their articles. And it's a legitimate platform because we do a basic screening, we do a basic review. It's not like a PDF dump that you can just upload what you really like and it will be live on the website and hey, $5 per publication. Because not like that, because we don't charge anything from our readers or our contributors. There is no money involved at any stage of the process. We don't even accept donations. You can like I talked a lot about the philosophy of this organization and how we have scaled up from an informal student blog with a few posts to currently we have more than 30 members in our team who are reviewing articles from all over the world, reviewing articles and contributing their own articles also. And then we currently the organization is almost 6 years old. It's more five and yeah, it's almost like 5 years 10 months. In the July 2026 it's going to be 6 years old, so it's almost 6 years old. And we have published 119 articles published, and all of these articles are like really high quality and they have been reviewed. Why do I say really high quality? Because till date we have received 301 submissions and we have had to reject so you can say 301 minus 119, so only 119 out of 301 made it to the website. So if we really wanted to show that, see, we have so many publications, we could at least have slightly polished and published a little bit more than that, because we had the opportunity to choose from, we had the option to choose from a pool of 301 articles. And yeah, recently for the last few months you could say that some of the submissions we're getting are absolutely like ridiculous, like AI generated slop. So they don't even technically, they don't count as valid submissions in the first place. But even if I, let's say, remove 50 of them, even then we have 250, which is a huge number. And this submission, this count is starting from 2020. So it's like through the entire 5-year history. There was no AI in 2020 or 2021 or 2022. Or even in 2023, I think the use of AI in academic writing was not as common or as normalized as it's now. So yeah, this count 301 is accumulated number for all these years. But yeah, that is the thing. So anyway, point is it's a pretty serious organization now. Now here is where I am personally afraid, but also a little bit the what I would like to say is that afraid. Why did I say afraid? First, let me clarify that, because like I said, every good organization, non-profit, small organization, so everything that starts small, like me being a 15-year-old 16-year-old high school student, 15 to 16-year-old, reading like suddenly thinking, actually I was 16 plus, I think, when I just founded the organization. Suddenly thinking that, hey, I just want to create a platform for young students to publish articles. There will be reviewers. It's almost like a dream. I had no capital, no money, no infrastructure. I just initially we didn't even have a domain. Our website is hosted by Wix. So initially it was the free version, Journal of Young Physicists.wixsite.com. And there was it looked very unprofessional. Today we have our own domain. We have, and it's not a lot of money to maintain a domain, right? It's not a lot of money, but yeah, it's a very small amount. But yeah, today we are more professional. We have a team. We have a privacy policy. We have a legal notice. We have guidelines for authors, and we have published work, like even works from master students, postgraduate, like original research work, lots of original research works which are a little bit technical, in addition to our usual like outreach type articles which are aimed to popularize physics among the younger audience, and also at the same time give the younger authors, like younger students who are writing about physics, the confidence they need and some experience in writings. Because one thing which we pride ourselves on is that it's not just a website where we publish, like it's not just submit, like accept or reject submissions. It's not that. You can ask our, I mean, if you have ever submitted articles to us and it has got rejected or even like accepted after some revisions, one thing you would know that we give very detailed feedback even to articles which are rejected. It's not like rejected, that's it, and just some generic AI generated 2 or 3 lines. Not that. We give very detailed feedback on why it was rejected, how it could be improved, and anything. In fact, if you like the rejected authors from JYP, they are free to resubmit their article after making the revisions, but the revisions have to be substantial and exactly what we said in the rejection email. If not all of those points are covered, then we cannot consider the resubmission. Of course, it's not like you edit one sentence and resubmit the same thing. Of course not. But that is the point. And yeah, rejection means it needs major revisions. Otherwise, I mean, even in some cases, if it needs major revision but the idea is not plagiarized, it's original enough, we do accept it, like we ask for major revisions. But if it's rejected, it means it's really like really needs to be started from scratch, of course. Otherwise, if it's just a matter of changing a few lines, we don't reject it. We give feedback and ask the authors to make revisions before publishing. But yeah, that's the thing. Now the point is, some people can, if you ask me very honestly, so is the JYP really important? Okay, I understand it's a very good platform. It has a good motive. It's not a vanity press. It's not a, what was that? It's not a predatory website or anything. It's not a scam. Definitely, it's not a scam. But is it really important, if you ask me? And of course, I'm not saying that important because I can write on my CV that I am the founder of this organization, which has like a growing presence, especially in the youth population. In that sense, it's important to boost my ego, and I personally don't believe that that is any kind of importance. But yeah, in that case, you could say, but is it really important? That is the question you can ask, and the answer will be no to most of you. I think the answer is yes. I'll tell you why. But the answer will be no, because I mean it's okay. It gives young students a little bit push, a little bit motivation. But it's not as if there was no JYP, there would be no physicists. It's not. I mean, before the JYP, the young students who never wrote an article when they were in high school, who don't know about what peer review means, what plagiarism means, what scientific integrity means, what a proper article means, what acknowledging limitations mean, what falsifiability means. A young student before the JYP, maybe let's go back 10 years from now. In that era, someone young who did none of this when they were in high school, who were kind of behind or backward by the present standards, even they grew up to become like a successful physicists. Like they have hundreds of citations, thousands of citations, and they are like really done groundbreaking work in the field. So the argument cannot be that we are preparing young physicists so that they become great physicists in the future, because there has been great physicists in the past and none of them did what the JYP is doing. So the JYP cannot be like crucial. Maybe the JYP is really helping some people. We also mentor some of our authors. Like there's an option. We have mentored 2 students currently, but there's an option, very young authors who have a clear idea in mind, but they need some kind of help in how to proceed or that kind of thing. We offer informal mentorship, but there are some we take the legal and the privacy of the minors very seriously, because some of our authors are below the age of 18. So for minors, we have some very strict laws, like a parent must be present during the meeting and everything. If you're below the year of 18, a legal guardian must be present, and then you don't need to turn on your video during the meeting, because we take the privacy of the minors very seriously. You can share your screen and show me me or whoever is mentoring from the JYP team. You can show them your idea or whatever you want to talk about. But yeah, anyway. So now the point is, then why is the JYP important? Yeah, it's a student run small organization which is good, and that's why I'm afraid, because everything that starts small, starts honest, starts clean with, and so far we have clean, we have no hidden agenda, we are not money making, we are clean. But when something keeps growing, right now we have like more than the last time I checked, for the last month alone, it was more than 65,000, like nearly, so it varies. So sometimes we even had, I think the highest was like 91,000 or something unique monthly website visitors. So 65,000 unique people, not the same person visiting our website twice in 1 month. That happens all the time. So our regular readers, they visit our website almost daily, of course, but they're not being counted. Like not the number of times our website was opened, but the number of unique site visitors. That was, I don't know how exactly we extract these numbers. And in fact, I think if you're visiting our website from, like, when you're not logged in, or from incognito, I think that doesn't count. But anyway, it's a huge number. So we have 1K plus followers on LinkedIn, so many submissions, so many people wanting to join us. Still, my only fear is that as it scales up, as it is growing, I'm happy that it's growing. I always wanted it to grow so that it reaches more and more young physicists, especially from the developing countries where research at young age is still, or where the students don't have this exposure beyond traditional education. But at the same time, I'm really afraid, because this is how every honest small organization becomes corrupted. When they become big enough, powerful enough, then of course, I will try to never, never do that to the JYP, of course. But again, every honest political leader said that before they became powerful. So you see the irony. I am self-criticizing myself. I'm not kind of giving any disclaimer. No, the JYP will not go down that path, because even if I decide, or let's say want to become corrupt in the future, the JYP is not really centralized. There are some members from our team beyond me who can access our email, our website, our dashboard, and all of us are young students, of course. Some are PhD, some are MSc, some are even younger than me, like even high school students. All of us know and believe in JF's mission, and of course, there can maybe one team member can do something which is not acceptable, like some, or even I can do something in the future which is not acceptable in regard with regards to the JYP. But there are some basic checks in the system, but of course it's not perfect. If such elaborate systems like governments, real governments, can fail, you cannot expect. Yeah, currently it's not, JYP is growing fast, but again, it's not that high stakes yet. So of course, we don't have to worry about getting corrupt overnight. But if it keeps growing, that's something we have to be extra careful about. That's why I say this, just so that I am saying this, so that this is a public record. This is on YouTube, and if I ever find the urge to, like, kind of abuse my authority within the journal, or kind of do something like try to turn the journal into a for profit, if such thoughts form in my mind, leave alone acting on them in the future when the JYP grows even more, I will remember of this video, and I'll remember of this. That's why it's kind of like an Ulysses contract I'm making with myself. Some of you might not know what a Ulysses contract is. So there's a very good story behind it. You can check it out. It's called Ulysses contract. ULYSSES, if I remember correctly. Ulysses contract. It means I'm kind of safeguarding. If foresee that in the future you might do something wrong, which is not in your best interest, so you kind of put some safeguards in the present to avoid some unnecessary or unwanted consequences that you foresee in the future. It's kind of, yeah, farsightedness. You can think of it like that. Yeah. Now that's now the point is, so the question is, so is the JYP really important? Like, important in the sense, of course, it can give some young high school students a false sense of achievement, that, oh, I am published in the JRP. But that's why, even though we are called the Journal of Young Physicists, you can take a look at our website. We are very honest about what we are and what we are not. We never claim that we are a peer-reviewed, registered, indexed journal, because we are not. We are not an academic journal with Scopus indexing, for instance, or that kind of thing. We do follow a peer review model, because if we submit an article, we assign it to one of our reviewers, and the author does not know who is reviewing their article, and the reviewer adds comments. And so it's basically a very rigorous and elaborate process, for given that we are just for high school, like not only for high school students, but still we are like mostly pre-PhD, and we are entirely a student-led, student-run organization. So we do follow the peer review model, but since we are not indexed, we are not claiming that we are a peer reviewed academic journal in that sense. So we're not claiming that. Everything is very clear on our website. If you just visit our website, there technically should be no confusion. And yeah, I mean, we could have tried to brand ourselves a little bit more in a way that would attract us, that would like make us seem more important than we really are. But we never did that, because I think for a platform like this, if you're consistent over the years, then we will automatically grow. We don't have to advertise or like fake our importance for that. And that's indeed true, because for the first 2 or 3 years we didn't grow at all. Like, things were looking very unfortunate, and I almost thought about shutting down the organization, except for the fact that there were already, even if a very small number, but there were already 3 or 4 articles published by someone except me, so I cannot just delete their articles. That's unethical. Otherwise, things were so slow. Like, we were not getting any submission at all. Even in the first 2 or 3 years, like I at one point, or on more than one occasions, I thought about like abandoning. And today we are like with such consistency. Why this consistency? We never advertised. We never, like, we did none of what you call promotion. And of course, I am not a celebrity. So it's, of course, if I was a celebrity, then my name alone would have attracted. But that is also not an explanation. Then why did we grow? I think the answer is because we were always honest. Not only because we give young people proper feedback, that's also one of the reason, because even when I'm rejecting their articles, our team members including me, we are giving them proper feedback. And that's what, at least to a young student, if they get proper feedback, of course rejection can hurt, and but sometimes we also have to reject because we cannot lower the standards with our platforms. Maybe you have written a good article, maybe it's not plagiarized. If it's copy pasted or plagiarized, then I don't have any sympathy for the author. Then of course it's a rejection. But even in some other cases, maybe the article is your own work, you try to write it, but it's not original enough. Of course, we don't want all our submissions to be like groundbreaking original research. But even if you're reviewing a known topic or writing a review article kind of thing, but you have to do it in a way that's engaging to the audience. You cannot just unless just state some facts in a boring manner, because if you do that, then that's not really adding anything new. We can publish that on our website for sure, but then what it will dilute the other posts, it will dilute the more important articles we have published. For instance, we have published a very original work, image analysis, data analysis, some simulations, some then other original works about, or then maybe some pedagogical pieces and like some serious work by students. And beside that, if we publish an article by some student, which is just like they've written on their own, they have not copy pasted. I'm not saying that, but maybe the topic is, I'm just trying to invent a topic just to give you the idea, but like just to say, for instance, the topic is, let's say, I don't know, let's say for instance, I mean, for instance, let's say Newton's second law. So that's, I'm not saying that it's not an acceptable topic. Much of physics is based on Newton's second law. It can sound like, oh, it's too childish, it's for elementary level physics. But yeah, JYP, we always encourage authors to explore a known topic, but in their own way and in a unique way. We have no problem with Newton's second law. We're not saying that this would look too naive on a journal, because we are not like academic journal. But Newton's second law, if you can think about it, if you can show, like for instance, if you can write a detailed article with proper diagrams about the link between Noether's theorem and, just an example, and conservation law, that's a very fundamental, very profound fact. And then from there, if you show that how Newton's third law refers to the conservation of momentum, linear momentum, how conservation of linear momentum refers to the symmetry, the translational symmetry, that will be something we can potentially publish. That will be interesting. But for instance, if you're writing Newton's second law says that F equals ma, where this is really interesting, and some examples like very like basic conventional textbook level physics, then there is no point in publishing that, because every textbook says that on the internet, on ChatGPT, you'll get that in seconds. So what is the point in posting that on the website under your name? I mean, I could have written that as well, anybody could have written that. So you see the point I'm trying to say. We recently got an article, like you can write about simple things. We do not encourage authors to use AI to generate very complex ideas which even they don't understand. For instance, somebody is submitting some stupid ideas, it's clearly pseudoscience, it's clearly not accurate, but if you take a look at the manuscript, it looks like a very advanced, lots of equations, lots of plots, this looks like a serious work. But if you read it properly, at least the ones who know physics, like the ones who are like at least trained in this kind of thing, which I am, not only because I am a physics student, but because I have to deal with these kind of submissions. So the JYP team members are kind of growing expert at this point, especially after this AI. They are submitting articles. They are claiming that Einstein was wrong. Einstein was every established formula in physics is wrong. Why? Because they have apparently found a simpler way to explain everything, and that simpler way turns out to be, I don't know, some basic mathematical fact which is interpreted in a very wrong way. No plots, no data, not even a suggestion of any kind of experimental verification. That's not how physics works. That's not how science works. I can build a very elegant looking mathematical framework that unifies gravity with quantum mechanics using AI in a few hours, and it will be consistent. If I brainstorm a little, maybe I can even show something that looks mathematically very like justified. I can show that under this limit it reduces to Lorentz transformation, under this limit it reduces to a known result in physics, but that doesn't mean that's correct. If something reduces to something known in a in some limit, so I say I know A is correct, and a bigger theory B reduces to A in the known limit. That doesn't mean the entire framework of B is correct. It just reproduces a correct result in one limit, but it can be completely wrong in other limit. The only seal of a scientific theory is falsifiability. You should be able to, maybe you are a young student, you don't have the resources to do an experiment, but you should be able to at least suggest a feasible experiment and exactly point out how that experiment can either prove or disprove your hypothesis. It cannot be ambiguous. Okay, you can do that experiment, but if you get this experimental outcome, it can mean either your theory is correct, like it can mean both that your theory is correct or incorrect, like inconclusive kind of. No, not that. If you use AI to write your articles or add a small section like experimental verification, it's clearly understandable, trust me. So if you can actually frame a proper feasible experiment of your hypothesis and frame it in like that, be honest about your limitations, then we can consider publishing such a hypothetical framework, even if it's speculative, if you are honest about what it is and what it is not. But without any mention of experiment, without nothing, just you're claiming that everything we know in physics so far is wrong, and you alone have solved it everything just by some brilliant little 2 page of algebra. So we discourage authors to submit this kind of exotic articles. You don't have to solve quantum gravity to become a physicist. So that's what I'm saying. We do encourage authors to start simple, maybe start from Newton's second law, start from the physics of a very simple object that you see around you. Forget black holes, forget the Big Bang, just start simple. The physics of, like for instance, a very good example I often give is that the physics of, for instance, this pen, which is, if I just make the pen stand on its tip, so of course it will fall. Now, this seems like, yeah, even a, like this is obvious. If a pen cannot stand on its tip, it will fall. So nothing special there. But if you can write an article about the physics of this, like, if you just think about it, because to a high school student, you don't need to go very advanced. But if you think about it, can you write an equation that will determine in which direction the pen would fall? Or is it random? Is it, of course, I'm not gonna lecture about this in this video, but just to give an idea. If I put a pen like this, it can fall like this, like in this direction, or it can also fall like this. So what determines? Is it at least impossible in principle to write down an equation that will exactly predict? So maybe you can say that, no, actually the first time it fell like this, the second time it fell like this, because the first time your hand, the force you put, the way when you balanced it was slightly inclined like this. So, but in theory at least it's completely predictable. You could say that, or you could maybe say that no, it's very much sensitive to this is a very small surface area, so it's very, and then there is external, like there is air, this is viscous medium, there are other factors. So no, I don't want to go deep into this, but if you think about it, it's a pen. So if I ask a young student, what do you find more interesting, a black hole or a pen? Of course a black hole, because they watched Interstellar, or black hole is always like, yeah, Stephen Hawking black hole, it's like the point of no return. But if you think about it, the physics of a falling pen is actually much more non-trivial than the black hole information paradox in some aspects. And this is something you can also do experiment on. Just start simple. It's a journal of young physicists. It's not a it's not a peer-reviewed academic Scopus Index journal. So if you're a young student, you don't have resources to do a large hadron collider level experiment. You cannot go to CERN and do a particle colliding experiment. But you can take a pen, you can have a piece of paper ready with another pen, and you can just repeat this experiment thousands of, maybe thousand is not practical. Even if you can repeat it 100 times, you try to place the pen as similarly as possible on a flat surface, and you record which direction it falls. Maybe just not exactly, but okay, maybe this way, this way, this way, or this way, and you just make a record, and you just try to think about of the statistics. So if you find something like, okay, I did this 100 times, and roughly 1/4 of the time the pen fell in this direction, in the west direction, the other 1/4 in the east, then north and south. If you can find something like that result, then you try to find some mathematical or statistical or physics explanation of that result. Just try something. You can just, as long as you're honest about your limitations, you don't have to have an exactly polished correct original result for GIV, but you have to be honest. You cannot, you shouldn't use AI to write some crazy equation with no experimental backing, with no validation, and claim that you have solved the problem of quantum gravity. This kind of work is this kind of work with a pen, for just as an example, for us it's much more valuable, because this is how you learn to do real research. The other way, quantum gravity, it's like I'm not saying quantum gravity is not important, but claiming to, like, going down that path when you're a high school student or even a young undergraduate without having proper formal training in the advanced mathematical frameworks needed to work in those areas, that is like more that means you're more interested in showing that you are a young prodigy or something than in learning real physics, because physics cannot be learned overnight. Any field of research, for instance scientific research, not just physics, it takes lots of patience. And this thing, if you just try this thing with a pen, it will take some time, it will take some patience, it will take lots of learning, but it's not undoable. All you need is a pen. It's not undoable. So if you try this some experiments, some statistics, and some real physics, like write an equation of motion, what's happening, what are the forces acting on a pen like this. First, you try in a simplified setting, in a unrealistic but simplified setting, like you ignore air resistance, maybe the usual. So if you do that, maybe try to write down a formula between the surface of the, like the surface area of the portion of this pen which is in contact, and the its outcome. Because for instance, if the, I mean, for the pen falls, but for instance something flat, it doesn't tip, right? Because it has a much higher surface area of contact. But the pen, it's just the tip. I mean, for instance, this is my power bank, right? So it has a flat surface. So if I like put it on my hand, it doesn't fall, it stays there because of the flat. This is very simple, common everyday observation, and there is already a formula, like there are formula, it's not unknown. But you can try to like reach those conclusions or on your own, and try to write honestly, instead of using AI to write about quantum gravity. This falls because it's just only like a very small area in contact, so see, it falls. That's what I'm saying. But so now I told you a lot about the JYP. Now why is it important? Because it gives young students a voice. Because some students, I know many students, I'm not making this up by the way, some students, they have decided to write an article because they know the JYP exists, which means if the JYP did not exist, they would never have written the article. So initially it was like they wrote an article, and then they start looking online for platforms that would potentially publish it or consider it, and then they find the JYP. But now it's also now the JYP has reached that level of popularity. It's not viral or anything, but it's still quite popular in its circle, that people are considering writing something original, because they know the JYP exists and because they want to get published in the JYP. Maybe getting published in the JYP is not the objective you should have. It's not the goal you should have. But if this pushes you to write something original at a young age, and then if you take our feedback seriously and don't get discouraged, but if you learn the steps of scientific writing, then I think that's a good thing for a young physicist, for a young student who wants to do physics in the future. I think that's a good thing. Number one. Number two, and this number two is the more important point, when like more important answer to the question of, why is it useful? Because history, merit, credit, all these things are shaped by the convention. Historically, you know the names of a few scientists, right? Einstein, Schrodinger, Heisenberg. I mean, I don't know, like Feynman, Landau. Point is, of course, they were great people. They did, but often it's almost as if they built physics single handedly. Physics means like physics is built around them, but you don't know the names of millions of others. Maybe not millions, but at least hundreds, even thousands of others who did equally important or even more important work, but somehow they did not get recognized. And you can ask why. If they really did that important work, then they would have been recognized. That's a very wrong assumption. Let me tell you why. Because physics doesn't care about who gets the recognition. Physics is impartial. Physics is about just physics. But unfortunately, that's why I started with politics, power, and everything. These things, they don't not only affect everyone at the country or the geopolitical level. These are true at every level, even at individual level. Even in your classroom, there is politics. There are gangs, like not really like criminal gangs, but like groups. That is their group. This is our group. I mean, or maybe person A likes that person has a crush on this person, so we can use this as a rumor, spread rumors. These things happen not even college, even in school these things happen. So if there is politics at the level of young, like kids, basically at the level of kids, like a classroom of 30 or 20 or 30 or 40 students, then of course this will affect academia as well. Forget geopolitics, forget countries. This will affect academia. This will affect physics, especially given that current academia, it's like a publish or perish situation, where quantity is preferred over quality, and you are required to have many citations, many publications. Otherwise, nobody's gonna take you seriously. You're not gonna get a job in a university, a faculty position or something. You will keep on doing PhDs and postdocs, and then you will be fed up, and then you will. You see the point. So in such a competitive field, it's natural. I'm not blaming the researchers. I'm blaming the system. Because I mean, if you throw 10 people in a room with only one loaf of bread, and if you lock them in, all 10 of them will eventually get hungry, and then they will kill each other for one loaf of bread. So without the context, it sounds funny. Why should I murder a person just for a loaf of bread? But in that context, even you or I would do it. That's the reality. If you don't have enough food to eat, like, I mean, I don't want to mention the word cannibalism, but even that could happen. Throw 10 people in a room and just lock them in for 1 month. Give them no food. They just give them like one loaf of bread. They will kill over that. That's how it works. Humans, As long as we live in society, we wear like as long as we're wearing clothes, a coat, a tie, and basically we are just wearing this. We are pretending to be civilized. We are pretending to be in control of our lives, because life is frightening. Not just in that sense, but but at a much deeper level, life is frightening. Why frightening? Because at least in my view, because we don't know how we came here. Yeah, I mean, I was born, of course, but we don't know. Like, we want to believe that there is some bigger meaning to, there is some grand divine purpose to it all, but we know there is, and deep down most of us know this, but we cannot accept that all of this is just an accident of combination, some accident of whatever, accident of science, whatever, spontaneous evolution of the system. We don't really want to accept that all of this is random, all of this is accidental, and I will die, none of this will matter. We don't really want to accept that. And just because we don't want to accept that, humans have gone to extremely great lengths. I personally consider unnecessarily great lengths. Religion. What is religion? Religion is a story that we have constructed just because we are too afraid to acknowledge the truth. So we have built religion. No, there is God. God, our lives mean something. If you do good, then God will do good. All this nonsense, all this rubbish. I'm sorry for my language, but in my view, each and every religion is rubbish. I don't want to kind of like harm. What is the word? I sorry. Yeah, I don't want to affect or disrespect your religion or your sentiment. But I think this should not come as disrespect, because I am not naming any particular religion. I'm not saying that that religion is bad, this religion is good. To me, each and every religion, including the religion that I was born as, like my parents, my household is very I won't say atheist, but very agnostic, because my parents are kind of, they never believed in any kind of God, not of their own religion and not of any other religion as well. Sometimes we do follow traditions, in the sense like when there is a festival we go there and stuff like that, but it's not like no worships, like no worships that many places of India and the world, like rituals. We never performed any rituals. So my parents were very agnostic. I am kind of a little bit more extreme, like consider myself even an atheist. My parents are, maybe they're not outspoken atheists, but they are never religious in that sense. They never do perform any rituals. They never force me to perform rituals as well, and of course they themselves don't do that. And they don't really believe in God, but at the same time they are not outspoken atheists like me, but okay, that's their choice. So I was never, but the point is, I am saying this religion as a whole, not this religion or that religion. So I think all of this religion was a human attempt to construct a fiction, a fictional, like a story, which will hide the real truth. The real truth is that there is no, like, forget God. The real truth is that none of this matters. All of this is random. That's what I believe, and that's the view that is best supported by science. Of course, you cannot. I mean, I cannot prove that my view is correct, but scientifically, this is much more likely to be true. Of course, we cannot know everything. Technically, everything could be a simulation. Technically, whatever I'm thinking could be controlled by some external force, not humans, like beyond that, simulator, whatever. So technically, even God is could be real, because I cannot disprove the existence of God. But like the example I always give is, you have to choose what to believe, not just what can be believed. I mean, if I claim that there is I mean, for those of you who are familiar with the resurrection stone from Harry Potter, a stone that can bring back the dead, that can make the dead alive. Or if you're not familiar, you don't need to familiar with the resurrection stone, or the deathly hallows from Harry Potter, even in general. Let's say make a claim that somewhere in this world, in this earth, in this planet, there is a stone, a single stone somewhere. There is only one of that stone. But that stone has a magical power, that if you put the stone on the forehead of someone who has died, then that person will become alive. Of course, you won't believe it, because common sense and logically that's not true. That's not true. But at the same time, you cannot disprove this, because you cannot literally go and pick each and every stone on the planet and test it on a dead person, and to disprove that CR you were wrong, no stone succeeded. You cannot say that. But that doesn't mean that you have to believe me. The same thing with religion. Just because I cannot, like, mathematically or scientifically disprove that God exists, doesn't mean I have to believe in God. Doesn't mean believing in God makes any sense to me. I mean, of course, you guys can, the religious guys can say that all of physics is like kind of whatever we're seeing or seeing an experiment is kind of because God wants us to see this. That kind of stupid arguments. If you want to argue for the sake of arguing, you can come up with any kind of stupid arguments. But these arguments are not falsifiable, so they do not qualify the tick the main box of some of when an idea is scientific. And if an idea is not scientific, if an idea is not reducible to scientific analysis, then there is no point kind of talking about it. So that's the thing. But now the question is, since humans are always afraid to look the void in the eye, to look at the void of existence. Like they have built religion, then they have built power and all this stuff. Which brings us back to what I was talking about. No, you said that, like, if I tell you that there are millions of thousands of people who remain unrecognized, they did great work, even better, like more important contributions than the scientists, the famous ones like Einstein and Newton. There are many people like that who are unnamed, who are lost in history. Why? And I also raised the objection that most of you will have, which is that, no, if their idea was really that level of groundbreaking, then definitely we would have heard of them. We would know them. Maybe they would not be as famous as Einstein due to some unlucky circumstances, but we would have heard of them at least. That is the point some of you will be raising. I know that. My answer to that would be not necessarily, because that's not how the world works. That's not how power systems work. Because uh, ideally, research, science, academia should not be about politics and power, but there is politics, the example I gave you. If there is politics even in a high school classroom, of course, academia is a big game where people are always competing. It's basically competition. Some people today always talk about collaboration, interdisciplinary. That is true to some extent, but as long as you and your collaborators, like, both, the collaboration benefits both of you. It's not necessary that the collaboration benefits the science. It's more necessary that the collaboration benefits both of you. Benefit means benefits both of your careers. Also, this is a good topic. If I collaborate, then both of us will get citations if we publish this article. So that kind of benefit. So that's not really being completely honest intellectually, but yeah, that's how academia works basically. That's how entire world works. And in that sense, say somebody who is in a third world country, or somebody who does not have enough exposure, somebody who has like really great, I'm sorry, somebody who has really great potential, somebody who could have actually worked wonders if given a little bit more exposure, or somebody who has actually independently worked on an idea which is not pseudoscience, which is a great idea, but they don't have any exposure, they don't even know how to submit to journals, or they don't even know how to, like, get their idea out there. There are many such examples. Like, I can assure you, I don't know of any personally, but I can assure you, this is obvious. There are many such people who actually worked on like really important thing, but they died. The works never. Maybe those works are present in some long forgotten notes or manuscripts, or like some papers in their files in their cabinet, or maybe they were sold. In India, some places people will sell old papers. Like, if you have a huge pile of paper with some waste, it's recycled and you can sell it for very less amount of money or whatever. So they're lost basically. There is no evidence, no proof, nothing, and those humans are also lost. Number one. Number two is that something else that can happen is that, if your idea is good, your idea is scientific, it's valid, it's legitimate, but maybe you don't yet have the credentials, you are too young. This links directly to the Journal of Young Physicists, by the way. I know some of you are wondering. So if you do some really great, that's how I was kind of pushed to create the platform. It became more serious later, but eventually the initial spark came like that I was very young then, but I already was working on some really great ideas, but nobody took me seriously, because of course I was a high school student from India. I was not a physicist. I didn't even have a master's degree in physics, leave alone a PhD. So how can I? So I was like, why shouldn't I be taken seriously? I am ready to face rejections. You can reject my idea, but at least take my work seriously. Treat me with a little bit of respect. That tell me where am I wrong? Why am I wrong? So that I can rectify it. That is acceptable. But rejection is okay to me as long as you give me feedback. But if people are like, oh, you are too young, I don't even feel the need to like even take a look at what you have sent me. I felt very bad, and that's when I thought there should be a platform like this. And the JYP is just the example I chose for this video, but I want to make this very general. There should always be alternative channels which are not controlled by the mainstream conventional powerhouses. In academia, the conventional route is like the big journals, Nature, Elsevier, or the usual, like the gatekeeping platforms, where you either need usually you either need to be affiliated with a big lab, or for your work to be taken seriously, or either you're expected to have a PhD or above for your work to be taken seriously. You're expected to work with a supervisor. Independent work is, especially if you're young, it's not given any kind, like, not taken seriously. Or you need to have endorsement, you need to have recommendation from a supervisor. So that is the conventional path, and that's important. I'm not saying, because most useful research ultimately gets published there. But the reason is not that that's the correct way. The reason is that that is the only that's the conventional system, and that's the only system we trust, that's the only system we turn to. and there are not enough alternatives in academia. That's what I feel. I mean, by alternative I don't mean like journal A or journal B, because all these peer-reviewed journal, they operate on the same model. They charge lots of money if you want to publish open access. Otherwise you can just publish like non-open access. So it's not really a very, how should I put it, it's not a very good system in that sense. It's the same. There are many journals. It's the illusion of choice, right? It's just like the illusion of choice. You think that, oh, I am the author, I have so many options, I can submit to this journal or that. The journals are kind of competing against themselves to kind of pose as yeah, I'm the better journal to the author. No, most of them are, they follow the same model at the end of the day. So it doesn't make like a huge difference, right? That is the thing. And yeah, most of these journals, they follow the traditional gatekeeping methods. They are run by, like, they have some institutions behind them or some companies behind them. They have some reviewers who review articles conventionally. All that is important as long as there are alternatives, and there is not enough alternative in academia. The GYP is aimed at growing into such an alternative for the young, yeah, for the young students in the very young, like high school, undergraduate level ecosystem. It is already that. It's already becoming much of close to that. But in all of academia, especially for the serious, like for more adults, like for the postdocs or researchers or professors, there is not any valid alternative. There are some alternatives, like some attempts at alternatives, like which are not run by the, like, not, for instance, not the preprint servers which are run by the same it's kind of like the same what should I say, the same conventional standards. Like by conventionally, oh yeah, this preprint server is an initiative by Springer Nature, that means it must be good. That one is by what, by Elsevier, so it must be good. So you're still assigning names, and there are only a few names. But and if it's something completely independent, very honest, very genuine, but still it's completely independent, no institution behind it, no university behind it, that doesn't sound prestigious. So like this, we are kind of not even letting alternatives to grow. Leave alone there are no alternatives, we are not even letting alternatives to grow. And that's a very bad thing, because this means only one part of the research work or the contribution of only one part of the academic community is getting amplified. So because if you are part of a big lab in a big country, in a big research network, then even if you do average or mediocre work, just through your connections, through your supervisor or something, you can have a very good publication. And one publication leads to another, and you like, you can show a very public record that, see, I have this many citations, I have this many. You can do that, and to the system you will be a very great scientist. But let's say you do really exceptional and really great work, but due to bad timing, due to your circumstances, the constraints of your surroundings or whatever, you are in a very you are not in a good research network, or you are not in a good not in like in a good research channel, or and that's why your work do not end up to in big journals, or for some reason get rejected, whatever it is. Then, and then you get discouraged and you stop working, or even if you keep working, you don't even target bigger journals anymore, and basically your work never gets the recognition it deserves. And for people like you, the same thing starts happening. Your work is kind of shadowed, and the mediocre work is getting amplified. And maybe if there are some small errors in those, which is very common by the way nowadays in the age of AI, if there are some small but fatal errors in the work of those like conventional but like kind of recognized people, sometimes those errors are overlooked, they're not corrected, and then it's published. And since it's published in a very like a prestigious venue, prestigious platform, prestigious website, prestigious journal, other scientists build on that, work on that, and cite that, and then a huge part of citable literature becomes it's kind of standing on very shaky foundations. See what I mean? There's a big problem. If you have alternatives like the JYP, I'm really happy to see that young people, students are taking the JYP seriously now. But I really believe there should be more alternatives in academia, and in not just academia, in every sphere of life. And by alternatives, I mean real alternatives, not like journal A and journal B, because both the journals follow the same model, do the same mistake, but they're just, one is located in the US, one is located in the, for instance, in Europe. That doesn't make that's not a real alternative. That's an alternative for you, because in your CV you want a conventionally good looking journal, so then you can choose journal B if journal A rejects you. But fundamentally, if you think about, like, I'm talking about the good for the entire academic entire system, fundamentally then those are not really alternatives, because they both of them are, they operate in the same manner, and they do the same mistakes. By alternatives, I mean something completely different, not traditional, not backed by institutions, so that it doesn't have to, it's not shaped by politics, shaped by institutions, shaped by profits, or shaped by the usual. It's completely different. And so to such level of autonomy, such level of difference, it's usually impossible if it, until and unless it's like completely independently founded organization like the JYP. But even in the case of JYP, it's like I don't know how long will it be able to sustain complete autonomy if it keeps growing. And that's what happens with most real life organizations as once they start growing. So anyway, I'm sorry, I kind of have to end the video on an abrupt note because I'm feeling like really sleepy. I mean, as I should. It's late in the night now, but I just had the sudden inspiration of recording right now because I have some time tonight. Thankfully, I don't have a lot of work tonight. Usually, I spend the nights, running simulations and doing other works. But tonight, it's thankfully a little bit less busy than usual for me. So I thought of why not record the video now. But again, I'm feeling a bit very sleepy. So but yeah, I think I made my point clear. Maybe as usual, I don't have a script. I didn't have a script, so maybe I just beat around the bush at some place in some places of the video. That's why it's 1 hour 10 minutes long. But I think I made the point clear. Why are alternative like why is youth science important? First of all, you can ask that. Why? I mean, science usually conventionally science is not for like science at least original research is conventionally not for high school students, not even for bachelors. It starts maybe at masters or even in some places at PhD, not even at masters conventionally. But then in this video I think I give an idea of why is it important, like why it's always important to have alternate channels. Those are the conventional channels which are amplifying a bias and kind of shutting down other good options. So those other alternative kind of this other valid work, legitimate work, which are not getting a channel, not getting enough representation in the conventional channels, there should be some alternative channel, albeit maybe not as prestigious conventionally, but still there should be alternative channels. Because I'm not saying this restores balance, this washes out all problems, but this is a very essential check which probably will restore some of the balance if it's sustained long enough. And the JYP is only a small step, and it's mainly for the younger audience. But yeah, it's a very good kind of example of why this is important. The same model can be and I think should be tried at a much larger scale. So and yeah, so that was all I think about the video about I think so thanks for watching. Yeah.